What's up, grinders? Welcome back to the channel. This is like the 6th or 7th time I've made this fucking video. And you know what this video is about? Censorship. And how it impacts upon your language learning journey. Now, I've made this video so many times because it's really so hard for me to express like my thoughts regarding this matter. But it seems so obvious to me, but at the same time, it's something that pisses me off so badly. And I haven't seen any language learning channels talk about this. I guess because, well, it's a really ticklish topic and they don't want to create a war in the comments section, but, you know, I live for that shit. I live to see you guys go down there throat to throat. I just stir the pot, you know, enjoy the comments, let the algorithm roll and bring in the views. But no, this is actually something that is starting to piss me off as of recently. Now, let me talk about first where I come from as a person, and then how this impacts upon me as a learner of languages, and then eventually as a YouTuber. Probably that last one less relevant to you guys, but also maybe relevant because you do follow me. A lot of you watch daily, and you want to know I am the type of person I am presenting myself to be here. So my story or my beliefs and philosophies around all this type of stuff started back when I was in the military. And I guess I can point at a few different occurrences, but most of it actually stemmed from, I guess, you know, the military life where it's always, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, even when it should be no sir. But if you say no sir, then you fucking end up basically in jail. But it's not even really that. It actually comes from a couple of TV shows. A lot of my philosophies in life have actually come from TV. So the first one I would say is Lie to Me. A lot of you might have never heard of this TV show before. That's probably the most weirdest English structure I just ever used and employed then. But a lot of you have probably never heard of this TV show. But for those of you who have, you probably think this is a weird choice. Now let me summarize what happens in this movie. Or TV show, I should say. There is a protagonist. He is a specialist in the ability to read facial expressions and determine when someone is lying to him. Now, I don't care about the protagonist. There's a side character. And this side character deploys something called radical honesty. Now, when I first watched this TV show, I had never heard of this concept before, and it blew my fucking mind. There is this guy who just says everything that's on his mind. Now, obviously, when you think about it logically, this is probably a terrible idea. And I learned this the hard way when I thought, this is a great idea. And I started deploying it and quickly found out I lost friends really fast when you used it. So I had to pull back on the radical honesty and employ honesty upon demand. You know, when people actually ask me to tell them something, I'd be like, okay, here it goes. Or, you know, occasionally I'd just be like, look guys, don't do that. That's a fucking stupid idea. But basically it'd be like, if you want to be a dickhead, you can be a dickhead, you can learn the hard way. But when it comes to my YouTube channel, you guys chose to be here, which means that you chose to come and listen to me rant on about shit, and therefore you're going to get hit with the honesty. Now, the second part of my philosophy developed from Star Trek and a character called Spock, which you've probably all heard of. He deploys logic over emotion, and I always respected this character for the fact that he was in a constant internal battle over trying to remain logical and hold back his emotion, because emotion basically, it clouds judgment. It clouds the ability to look at something and actually determine the facts at hand based on that, as opposed to just falling back into some, you know, emotional argument which realistically has no base in reality. Now, you might be sitting there and going, okay, this is all great and all Evildea, but how does this impact upon my language learning journey? Hold on, we will get there, okay? We got to build up a little bit of a backstory. So when it comes to languages, let's start with English. This is the obvious example you've probably all seen. So let's imagine you're learning English, and in fact a bunch of you are. You probably heard some YouTuber use a word like unalive. Why does he use that word? Is it because it's cool? Is it because he's deploying Esperanto version of bondlingvismo, which is basically the dumbing down of language to make it easier to understand? You know, unalive. That's actually really logical. Like, why go learn another word such as suicide, which I just got demonetized over, when you can just say unalive? No, we don't choose it because it's the logical choice. We choose it because, well, we will be demonetized, which is what just happened to me. But don't worry, guys, you will still get advertisements. YouTube will ensure that happens, because if there's one thing advertisers hate more than bad words, it's them not showing their ads to you. Okay, so you will still get that. But yeah, obviously then YouTubers who do not want to be demonetized because their life is highly dependent upon this, basically self-censor in words. Now that's the first level of self-censorship, or the first level of censorship I should say. Now the second level of censorship is caused by you guys, the viewers. So what happens with every YouTuber at some point, if they step outside the bounds of, the most safe of topics, learn a language or present freaking, how to learn a language in a game or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like do makeup and shit like that or exercise. As soon as they want to talk about even the most mundane of topics that in some way by some group could be determined to be a bit of a ticklish topic, they self-censor. They first look at their audience and they're like, ooh, okay, this is what the majority of my audience believes, so this is what I should believe. And they basically become audience captured. Now, you might still be thinking, okay, how does this impact upon my language learning journey? Well, basically, it restricts one, the language that you're hearing, and then two, the types of language that you get to enjoy. Okay, so you basically then fall into a trap of, okay, this is what I should believe because this is what they're all talking about, okay. Now, in English, it's not so obvious. Let's take this to another language, Mandarin Chinese. Now, as a learner of this language, when I watch a YouTuber, it becomes very difficult for me now to enjoy the language. Because obviously I can watch gaming videos and stuff which are pretty neutral, there's no problems. But if I want to step outside that and I want to see like an actual, a debate between groups or something, it just doesn't exist. It's so restricted. It's so censored because you have two types of YouTubers that exist. The one who knows that their livelihood or their family relationships, everything is dependent upon towing the line for China. And therefore, when you watch them, you don't know if you're actually watching a person or a propagandist. You just don't know, okay? You don't know if they actually believe that or not, which makes it difficult to connect with the person in question. And now it also works with the secondary camp, the camp that at some point, they maybe have been in the first camp, but now they're outside of China or they're outside the Chinese system of acceptance, and now all they do is rage against China, and then they become audience captured, and their audience expects them to just constantly rage against China. Now, as someone who is learning this language and who's also engaged in the culture and travels there often, it is so hard for me to enjoy any of this content. The first content being from those who all they do is say, oh my God, China's amazing. They've got this, they've got that. Oh my God, look, this is so good. This is so great. Because I've gone over there. I've been over there. I have family there. I've got business partners and shit over there. I know what it's like. Okay, half the shit you're showing me is bullshit, but you're doing it because, well, one, your audience captured by the Chinese people who want to feel like, yeah, it's great, or your audience captured by the people in the West who hate their own system and therefore just want to love the opposing system. Trust me, guys, it's basically the same as over in the West, but just more restricted, okay? Or I go to watch the other guys and all they're doing is raging and being hyperbolic about shit, and actually multiple times in several videos I've seen just spreading complete lies. I know they're lies because I've been to the places they're talking about, okay? I've seen that shit. So it's like, I'm just watching a bunch of fakes in Chinese and I can't enjoy it. At least in English, I can be assured with some YouTubers that I feel they're telling me the truth. And as someone who kind of, prescribes to that radical honesty as much as possible without alienating every single person out there and logic over emotion, there are YouTubers I can follow in the English space and I believe probably in some other Western language spaces without too many problems. But when it comes to certain languages like Mandarin Chinese, I can't trust them. I can't enjoy their content, which basically cuts off a massive amount of content for me around social issues, something that I do care about and I am very interested in. And therefore that leaves me with what? Cultural stuff? I enjoy cultural stuff as much as the next person, but I'm basically hindered. Okay, like there's a big part of the language which I just cannot enjoy. So this has a real impact on my ability to actually progress within the language. Because if they were talking about this stuff in an honest way, I could probably sit there and consume hours of it. But at the same time, it's very hard. Now, there is learning channels for Chinese where they do talk about these social issues, okay? But at the same time, some of these learning channels, they've become so jaded over this stuff that they're almost going towards the opposite camp of now they're just ragging on because they're jaded against it, okay? It's so hard to find that middle ground type of content that exists within the Chinese sphere. And I assume this is not just for Chinese. It probably exists for multiple languages, and especially languages with big religious impacts upon them, I'm imagining. But also, funnily enough, it happens with English. Yeah. So I watch, YouTube channels where they touch on anything that could be deemed American politics, cultural war. And it's just like, oh my God, everyone is fucking audience captured to the point where no one's talking honestly about anything, okay? You know when someone's talking honestly about something because they will just be smashed by their own audience, okay? And it's tiring as a language learner, especially for Chinese. English, I'm pretty safe, but I'm not learning English. Well, I probably should because you guys say my English sucks. But like, yeah. I just figured this is something that's been on my mind as of recently when I've been going down this like rabbit hole with Chinese. And then as a YouTuber myself who wants to be honest about these things, I know as a Chinese YouTuber, because I have a Chinese channel now, I can only ever play video games. Because if I step outside that realm and I start talking about things I care about, I will be barred from China. Yep. But that doesn't mean that I hate China or I think everything over there is terrible. No. In fact, the groups that hate China, they will probably still call me, a China simple, something like that. Because I'm just not the guy who's going to hate everything or agree with everything. And it's the same with everything on this channel. I think that's why a lot of you guys do like to listen to me. Even when I rage about topics that aren't exactly language related, because I try to be honest about things and try to leave out emotion as much as possible, even when a lot of you really don't like it. But yeah, you've come to accept it, you subbed, it's your own fault. If you guys, I'm really curious to hear about your language learning experiences with censorship in other languages, because I'm assuming it happens with a lot of languages. If you've enjoyed this video, like the video, sub to the channel. I fucking never say this these days. This is another thing. This actually makes an impact. When I say sub to the channel, so many more of you actually do sub to the channel than normal. But if I say it too often, I get called a fucking YouTube simple some shit. I don't know what it is these days. I'll fucking stop begging for subs. But it's just one of those things, you gotta fucking say it. Anyway, I'll see you all next video.